Hey, Slater Crusaders, welcome back. Road to midterms. Want to go right to our two guests, Congressman Andy Biggs, who's from Arizona. Now we're all caught up on Arizona. And Congressman Dan Bishop from the great state of North Carolina. Congressman, how are you, gentlemen?
Great, thanks.
Great, Mike.
Great for you guys are here. Congressman Biggs, I want to start with you because we're just talking about Arizona. How big of an issue in this election is the border for Arizonans?
It's one of the top issues. I mean, it's either economy or the border, and they're almost equal. And here's why: the border is wide open. We have hospitals that are getting eaten up, having to provide service to illegal aliens. We've got the fentanyl crisis. We've got high crime rates. You've got Tucson that has almost doubled its homicide rate. You've got Yuma that's seeing 1,200 or so people a day enter there. You've got the most gotaways coming through the Tucson sector. So it's huge in this state.
If only the people of Martha's Vineyard could understand truly what you guys have gone through in Arizona for all these years. Congressman Bishop, we all remember this picture from 2021. This was last year, of the border agent whipping the Haitian migrant here. This is what the head of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, said about that picture and that investigation.
The images, as I expressed earlier, the images horrified us in terms of what they suggest and what they conjure up in terms of not only our nation's history, but unfortunately the fact that that page of history has not been turned entirely. But I will not prejudge the facts. I do not in any way want to impair the integrity of the investigative process.
I love the part that the page of our history talking about slavery has not yet fully been turned. Anyway, I bring this up, Congressman, because we have emails now that he was in fact briefed hours before that clip that no migrant was actually whipped, but he came out and said what he just did there anyway. What do you make of him? And if Republicans take control, what can you do about him?
Everything about Alejandro Mayorkas has been directed toward destroying American or enforcement of American immigration law. And one of the parts of it is he's proving himself is he's interested in demoralizing and delegitimizing the Border Patrol. These are amazingly fine Americans that are serving the country, working with a situation that's intolerable, but he goes out and demonizes them even after he's gotten word that there were no whips. And you know, even after all the facts have come out, these people have been punished anyway for, you know, unsafe movement of a horse. He just doesn't have these guys back. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, unsafe movement of a horse. I love that. Congressman Biggs, in the name of accountability, we'll keep this going. Will Fauci ever be held accountable for anything that he did in manipulating the American people? Or do you think people don't care anymore? Are we ready to move on past the mistakes of COVID? What do you think?
No, he has to be held accountable, just like Mayorkas has to be held accountable. I think Mayorkas should be impeached. He's the low-hanging fruit on the impeachment level. But for Dr. Fauci, look, we know that there's the implication of corruption there. We also know that there's been additional funding that's gone over to that same gain-of-function research lab in China. We know that Fauci lied to the Republic repeatedly. He also misled President Trump. His policies have given us just incredible, reduction in our freedom and an attack on our way of life. I think he needs to be held accountable. I've talked to the Oversight Committee, the guy who will be the Oversight Committee Chairman, James Comer. I think he agrees, and I think Fauci is one of the top 5 individuals that needs to be hauled in before Congress and be held accountable.
He admitted twice the noble lies that he was telling, right? Oh, we got to get 60% of people vaccinated because only 50% plan to get it. So if we say it's 60, and then when 60% say, we'll say it's 70 we need, and then when 70% do it, we'll say it's 80. He admitted that on 2 different occasions. So what are we doing here? Congressman Bishop, let's go to January 6th, which just wrapped up the January 6th hearings. What's the vibe in DC about these hearings, even from the Democrats? Because it seems like from my perspective, they kind of fizzled out and was kind of a big flop at the end of the day. But what are they saying in DC about it, even the Democrats?
I can't tell you that I know what the Democrats are saying, but it's evident to everyone that this has been sort of a Soviet show trial type production. and they continued on. And they after they couldn't get any bang for the buck, they tried to finish off with a panache to subpoena President Trump. It's just pure show, and it isn't working for them in campaigns. And they are, I think we're looking at a very good year for Republicans. And then, as Andy suggested, how we follow through is the key. We've got to do oversight in a way that is unprecedented or really hasn't been done in 150 years. Andy and I both sit on the Judiciary Committee. I do think Mayorkas is going to be impeached. There certainly is going to be an impeachment inquiry. We've got to push a liberty-minded, pro-America agenda by pursuing oversight, not only as to the Mayorkas and the way he's operated Homeland Security, but the FBI, the DOJ, how they've been politicized in so many different ways. There's much to do, and there's a policy agenda that's extraordinarily important as well. We've got to show the American people we can move, and I know Andy and I are prepared to do that.
That's beautiful. So, Congressman Bishop, on that's great that you guys are both on the Judicial Committee. I didn't realize that. So, what would that process look like? Let's say the Republicans take back the House. Is that all that's needed to impeach? And then, what does an impeachment? So, what's the process of an impeachment of a Department of Homeland Security secretary? And then you guys just vote on it, and then what happens? How's that work?
Well, the House of Representatives has the power to introduce impeachment resolutions. Typically, the Judiciary Committee handles one of those or handles the impeachment inquiry. Not always. And when the Democrats did their other show trial of an impeachment against Trump for the phone call, I think they did, the Intel Committee handled the bulk of that. But if the impeachment, inquiry results in a favorable report to the floor, the House will vote on whether to pass resolution of impeachment, and then that would go to the Senate for trial and possible conviction. Now, we know where we are in the Senate. Nobody's questioning that. I mean, we'll see. We may be better than we are, but to get the requisite vote to impeach him, I don't know about that. We'll have to see what the evidence looks like. And maybe I'm a little ahead of myself, but I'm pretty confident we're going to see an impeachment inquiry at the least in the Judiciary Committee in the House.
Very good. Congressman Biggs, which sort of references, it seems like the Democrats' top two issues, and I'm really curious why they decided to do this and what their focus groups were saying. It's January 6th and like this general, the Republicans are destroying democracy and ripping the fabric of it. It's like this big, right? And then abortion. Those are the top two things. Are you surprised that they went with that? And is that getting any leverage at all for them?
Well, certainly, I think Dan's exactly right. January 6th is come and gone, and they missed the boat on that. When you move to abortion, I think abortion gets some traction with some demographic groups that they hope to keep. But the bottom line is they have no other policies to run on, Mike. I mean, so you can't run on a good economy. You can't run on energy prices being low. You can't run on safe communities. You can't run on border. You can't even run on international policy. You can't. They have nothing to run on. So this is a matter of deflection, right? I mean, so the first thing is to say, oh yeah, Dan and Andy, they're these crazy guys, so you can't vote for the Republicans, right? That's nutty, and people reject that, right? People are rejecting that. And then they move to abortion because they're hoping to get some demographic of suburban women. But what I'll tell you is poll after poll after poll, and even Barack Obama agrees with this. It's not abortion. The number one issue is going to be your energy prices and your inflation and how whether you can live the lifestyle you want to live in a safe community. If you can't do any of that, believe me, what I'm hearing from people and what polls are saying is, abortion falls way down on the list because they want to have a life that they can live, and they're not able to do it under this administration. So I think we should just, if you keep tying Biden around their neck, they're going to sink into the abyss.
Yeah, we played the clip last week of James Carville saying the same thing. He's like, guys, knock it off. Democrats, you can't just be screaming abortion every time the economy comes up. Congressman Biggs, I want to start with you here about your state, Arizona. So we just talked about Blake Masters and Kari Lake, you have the whole background, all those things. How important are those races? And those are two like MAGA Trump Republicans. Do they have a chance to win in Arizona?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kari Lake is actually going to do very well and win that by a very comfortable margin, which means that it's going to help carry Blake across. And I think Blake's going to win as well, which we need in the U.S. Senate. But I will just say, Mike, and I think Dan would probably agree in his state, but the slate of candidates for Democrats are so far left and crazy in Arizona right now. We've got to win the entire slate of Republican candidates, because you can't give Kari Lake an attorney general that is aligned with Joe Biden, or a secretary of state who's aligned with Joe Biden. So the top two of the ticket are important, but so is every race down the ballot.
Nice. Tell me a little bit about Arizona. Like, I don't understand Arizona. When I think Arizona, I'm right next door. I'm in San Diego. But when I think Arizona, I think like maximum freedom, open carry, whatever. But then, like, you guys elected wacky cinema, and it's like becoming more of a purple state. Like, what's the lay of the land in Arizona where you guys aren't like 90% Republican? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, Arizona's a populist state. So, I mean, we came into the nation with this kind of populist background. Our Constitution's very populist in nature, but you know, it's still a very independent nation, independent state, I should say. And so, yeah, I can't explain it all the time, but I can tell you this: we are a center-right state, and as long as we're a center-right state, we're gonna start re-electing Republicans, and I think you'll see that this time. We're gonna go from being in the minority in our delegation. Think of it this way: only 4 of 11 members of Congress are Republicans in Arizona. I think when this turns around, you're going to see 7 or 8 of those 11 will be Republicans.
Yeah, that seems right. Congressman Bishop, we only got about a minute. What's the big race in North Carolina that we need to be paying attention to across the country?
Big thing is the Ted Budd race for United States Senate. You know, they say North Carolina is a purple state. I think we're pink. We're pretty consistently barely red, and Ted is running a fine race, and he's got a lead. That's unusual for a Republican in a United States Senate race. That's the big deal. Second one, real quick, is Bo Hines in District 13 has got a good prospect of winning a seat that they expected to be Democrat, and we hope he'll do well down ballot as well. Really are.
Okay, beautiful. We'll do some more research on those, and we'll report those in the days to come. Congressman Andy Biggs from Arizona, Dan Bishop from North Carolina. Gentlemen, keep up the wonderful work. Grateful for you.
Thanks.
Mike.
Good to be with you.
Thanks, guys. Coming up next, we'll analyze this more from a media's perspective with Chris Houck from the Media Research Center. And then we'll wrap up with our Politics by Faith segment. We'll talk about the media's posture whenever a Republican brings up voter fraud. It's a very different posture than when a Democrat brings it up. We'll talk about that coming up as well. Road to midterms.